Where are you on Fernando Mendoza?
I think Kirk brought up some good points when it comes to Fernando Mendoza. He is a very talented player, but I would say that you don't want to get ahead of yourself when you think that he's going to come and be a game changer. He's more of a managerial type that can operate at a high level. I've made the comparison to Jared Goff in terms of how he'll play the game within the right system. The best thing that has happened to Fernando Mendoza is Klint Kubiak bringing his system to the Las Vegas Raiders because that system has been one that has turned average players into Pro Bowlers and Pro Bowlers into MVPs. And when surrounded by the right talent, he can have a lot of success. But if you're thinking that he, on the strength of his right arm, is going to change the franchise, that's not going to be the case. But with the marriage with Klint Kubiak, Brock Bowers, Aston Genty, and whoever they can bring to occupy that number one receiver role, that could be enough to have him have a lot of success and for the Raiders to return to prominence.
You know, Bucky, as you know very well, this time of year is smokescreen time of year, lies, gossip, all sorts of stories coming out around the draft. But there have been some reports that have come out behind the scenes that maybe Fernando Mendoza isn't the slam dunk number one overall pick that we initially thought that he was. Maybe Fernando Mendoza isn't the potential savior for the Raiders franchise. Do you buy into that? Do you agree that maybe it's not a slam dunk that the Raiders do go Fernando Mendoza number one overall?
I think he's going to be the number one overall pick because their biggest position of need, quarterback, is what he plays in that. Now, if you ask me, is he the best player in the draft? No, he's not the best player in the draft, but it's the combination of things that'll make him the number one. And in this system that they're going to put together with Kubiak, it works. I'm sure that they would love to make it work with Geno Smith, but I just don't think that's a possibility. To me, it just makes sense that he's going to be the pick, regardless of whether he's the number one player in college football. The need and what he feels and what he brings is enough to help the Raiders make the move.
Bucky, a
Who is
year
the best
ago,
player in this draft?
I think the debate will come down between Arvell Reese, linebacker from Ohio State, and his teammate Caleb Downs. If we're just talking about the best player, regardless of position of value, the debate has to be with those two guys. Unfortunately, the draft is not about the best players. It's about kind of playing the connect the dots game. And this player fits this need, and he's best on our board at that spot, so it works that way. But if we're just talking about, hey, we're going to the playground, and I get first pick and I get to pick the best player, it's either Reese or Downs for my book.
so a year ago, we were talking to Titans fans, and everybody was saying, "Oh, next year's draft class. Go to next year's draft class." Now we sit here this year, feel like we're saying the same thing. Next year's draft class. When you take Fernando out of the equation, how does everybody else handle this year's class versus next year's class, and trying to figure out when and how to get a quarterback?
Yeah, no, it's challenging because outside of Fernando Mendoza in this class, there's not the guy that's the slam dunk first round talent. And what everyone was hopeful for, you think about the Browns and all the teams that had these picks, the Jets. Oh, they're going to be three quarterbacks. We can take one. Well, when Dante Moore pulls out, some of the guys underperform. You don't have the same quarterbacks. Next year's class potentially could be loaded, but we got to see how they continue to evolve. Arch Manning would be the name that people talk about. Julian Sains will be there. We're talking about Lenore Sellers and Dante Moore and others. It appears to be right now that there are going to be more options, but we'll never know until they start playing. And then there'll be a random name that'll pop up that also will be in the conversation as a first round talent.
We hear every year, oh, this is a great so and so draft or a not so great so and so draft. So when you look at the 2026 draft, which position do you think is it a great year for and not a great year for?
Quarterback is not a great year for quarterbacks just because outside of Fernando Mendoza, you're stretching to find one that is really a first round talent. Ty Simpson may go in the first round, but he only played 13, 14 games. That's not enough sample size to say that he's ready to dominate in the league. So quarterback is a really weak class. I would say the strengths of this draft would be offensive line. There's some really good offensive linemen. It may not be the marquee players that we're used to seeing, but the offensive line has some talent. Fano, Mawagoa, Lemieux, like there are enough guys that you feel great about that. I would say the class of wide receivers is also fantastic. Jordan Tyson, Mekhi Lemon, Carnell Tate. So many guys that can come in as Zachariah Branch. People talk about Denzel Boston, on and on and on. There are a lot of wide receivers and playmakers that can make their mark. I would say the pass rush class is up and down. There's some good players, Ruben Bain, David Bailey, but I don't know if they're great players. And so you got to make sure they're the right fit for the system that you have.
What do you do then if you're a GM and you're sitting there and let's say to your point you've got an edge rusher there that's clearly the best edge rusher in this year's class. There's a big drop off, but maybe they're not worthy of the 4th or 5th pick in the draft. Like we always say, trade down. It takes 2 people to make that happen, Bucky. So how do you approach it when you're trying to figure out value added at the top of the draft?
Yeah, I think what you have to do, if you can just keep it simple, take really good players. Like just take a really good player, regardless of where you're picking. You can't go wrong if you take a great player. So try and find who the great players are on the board, rank them from 1 to 75, 1 to 100, and then just systematically go down that process. And whoever's there at whatever pick you're selecting, take the best player, because when you have good players, it gives you an opportunity to improve the talent on the team. And also when you have a surplus at a position, you can trade that off to get what you need at another position. So you can't go wrong just taking a great player.
We've seen the transfer portal and NIL and COVID years keep college football players in college football longer. Like we saw Montana linebacker Solomon Taliapupu just was granted a 9th year of eligibility, a 9th year of eligibility. So as somebody who has covered the draft and has done it very well for a very long time, how have you seen these changes in college football affect the amount of talent that's available in the NFL draft?
I actually believe it'll make it better. Before, we were having so many underclassmen that were coming out before they were ready. And you just see a lot of guys that were good college players that would go undrafted. Now, I would say you're probably getting a better product in the National Football League, particularly as it comes to the quarterbacks. Quarterbacks that now are making $5-6 million, staying in school, getting those extra reps, more time on task, should bring about a better player when they get to the league. And for some of those other players, now we're at the point where the guys that are declaring are the guys that are the slam dunks, the guys that everyone knows they're 1st or 2nd round talents. Outside of that, they're staying in school. They're having more opportunities to develop. The one area of concern with the transfer portal is people aren't staying at the same program to fully develop all the way. So guys that used to be at Alabama for 4 and 5 years, now they're popcorning around. And so they never really settle. And so sometimes they may not be as fully developed as the traditional blue blood prospect would be. But outside of that, they're staying a lot longer in college. And typically more reps, more practice time leads to a better player when they get to the pros.
Bucky, I know we got to get you out of here, but I always love draft guys. Always got a sleeper they fall in love with. Is there somebody that's on your radar we're not talking enough about?
I can't call him a sleeper because everyone knows him, but I would say the wide receiver Chris Brazzell from Tennessee is someone that everyone is buzzing on just because he's such a vertical playmaker. He's someone that puts the ball in the paint. He has tremendous speed and quickness. I think he's going to show out at the combine. He is someone that everyone needs to pay attention to because this draft class is terrific at wide receiver. May not have the marquee names, but there can be guys in the 2nd round that have immediate impact.